If we can't get the meeting going with a little Run DMC, where are we going to go? Okay. I think you figured out I'm Clair Carter-Ginn, and I'm a partner at Forecast. It is amazing to be here in Brussels. This is actually my first time in Brussels. Should I admit that? But wow, what a town. Other than allergies, it is the most amazing place. So I apologize if I stop to hydrate occasionally. It is wonderful to be here with all of you and to see so many leaders across the spaces and places of content and creative. And I'm here today to share with you some of my top tips for innovating and evolving in-house agencies. And let's see if I can turn a page. Apparently I can rock a rhyme but not turn a page. All right, let's see. And I'm on to Mike. Okay, so this is what happens when your Gen Z designer gets a hold of your deck and then hands it over to you and you haven't figured out how to change it after that. So I decided to leave it. I'm going to drop some wisdom like it's hot, or at least try, and lucky for you, this might be my last attempt to be cool today. We'll see how it goes. But again, my name is Claire, and I've led in-house agencies and teams at Michael Kors, The Gap, Target, and at Forecast, I help global brands build, optimize, and innovate their agencies. And I work with clients ranging from high street to high end, Louis Vuitton, Bulgari, Bain Consulting, REI, amongst many more. And I'm looking forward to sharing some of that wisdom that I've gained with my clients and in-house leading groups. And obviously, this is a very important topic that's close to my heart, but it can be a little dry. I do have a QR code, just so we're going to talk about that later. And this is clearly a very cool and evolved audience. So I wanted to, first of all, thank Chili Publish for bringing me here and for allowing me to speak with you today. And I wanted to make it a little bit more interesting than maybe my usual drag. So I was thinking about it, and where I live in Brooklyn, we've had an amazing summer. The weather's been pretty good, and it's also been the 50th anniversary of hip-hop, if you can believe that. And just to clarify, hip-hop is a lifestyle, and rap is music. I actually had to look that up. So if you want background, there are songs about it. KRS-One has a song where he references it. I've learned a lot working on this. So we've been celebrating the 50th anniversary of hip-hop with events and music and dance parties and house parties and the whole 9 yards. And so in celebration of that, I wanted to take 10 song titles that inspired me to think about how I would want to share with you innovation and opportunities for your in-house agency. So, as I said, I have a Spotify mix. There's going to be a QR code at the end. And in the meantime, let's get started. Well, we have to start with It's Tricky by Run DMC, because it's a classic, of course, and because, let's face it, it can be tricky to run an agency. But in my view, it's not as tricky when you start with strategy. So I like to think of strategy as your North Star. It's your roadmap, your guiding principles, and it's what you go back to when you go awry. And that's not just an agency. That can be in life. That can be when you're training for a marathon. The New York Marathon was this last weekend, and I have to admit it was pretty exciting to be somewhere else, because as much as I like watching people run extreme distances, it runs right by my house, and so I can't go get the subway that day. Anyway, but strategy is working with what is while you're working towards what's next, in my view. It's the culmination of our mission, our vision, our values as an organization. And I believe that starting with strategy sets you up for success. Look, I get it. We are oftentimes so busy doing the work, it's hard to be strategic about the work. But I really recommend take a step back, take time to develop your agency strategy, align it with your partners, your clients, and leadership so you're all on the same page. There's a great quote from my friend Devin Fisher, who works at Quad. He runs their in-house studios for a variety of clients. And he says, spend 5 minutes up front and define your strategy. It will save you 5 days on the back end. Okay, so 5 minutes might be a little ambitious, but you get the message. Good strategy reduces the work, especially the rework. So align your strategy to the business, because this is so huge in the eyes of leadership. And there are a few things you can do to get started. One of the things I recommend you ask is, what are the overall business goals of the organization? From there, what are the content goals? What are the creative goals? And from that, what can we then say our agency goals are? Because when we know what our goals are, we can be more strategic about how we're going to get there. So strategy first, and then develop your tactics. So my top tips for strategy are aligned goals. Understand the business goals, then have your agency goals reflect and feed into them. Create a scope of work. I can't tell you how much this revolutionized our in-house agency at Michael Kors. It helped us go from a 12-person creative services group to a global agency of over 80 full-time staff and probably 40 or 50 freelancers. Because if you know what's coming in, you can be more strategic about how you're going to get everything done. So create a scope of work. And remember, strategy first and then tactics. And just so we know, I probably need some memory tools. So if Holland and Barrett have anything for me, I do have a Super Saver card, so happy to talk about that later, Gary. Okay, let's move along. Oh, God, if anybody remembers Kid and Play. House Party. We're going to get a little funky with Kid and Play and talk about innovation. And yes, all of these are on the Spotify mix. If we had spent all the time to queue up every single song, I would be here until the new year. But I want to get funky, and I want to talk about innovation because it's something that is very important to all of us, I think. So one of the first things that I do when I work with a client on a creative ops or agency optimization project is find out what's really happening. And to do that, I ask. I go to the source. I interview the teams because I think they hold the keys to what could be innovated and what should be innovated. You know, hold focus groups, roundtables, one-on-ones, include everyone in your agency, include your clients and your cross-functional partners. I understand that I'm asking a big thing. It is a lot, and I know that, but it is so worth it. Some of the questions that I end up asking are, what are our biggest pain points? Because if we can figure out how to make people's lives better by finding solutions to their biggest headaches, it's a huge win for us as a team and for us as individuals. Also, what are the project successes? I think this one is especially beneficial because it moves the conversation from what's negative to what's positive. Not everything is broken. It probably feels like it in the moment because our brains love to focus on the negative. But by asking questions like this, we reframe the conversation from what's not working to what is, and that's so valuable. Because then we can take those key elements of what is working, you know, whether it's a completed creative brief or a great partnership with someone in marketing or the fact that we had samples on time. And this probably isn't the right audience, but if anybody wants to talk about the sample conundrum, I am more than happy to do that from a photo studio standpoint. But we can take these things that are working and figure out how to incorporate them into our next projects. And also figure out what's on everybody's wish list. Because you might find that some of the things your team wants are also things that your clients want. And I have the feeling it probably has something to do with project intake, which I'll talk about in a little bit, maybe process, or maybe how are we utilizing our tools, or how do things get shared in the end. But all of these conversations help you understand more fully what's truly happening in your organization and where you might start your innovation journey. So, when we're not at the house party, I like to suggest these top tips for innovation. Take time to listen and learn. Combine what you learn with your strategy and goals to document what you want to innovate, and then create a plan, including a clear and communicated implementation plan. Implementation plan is hard to write, let alone say clearly. Okay. People. I just have to share that this particular mural is down on the Lower East Side in New York, and I was super excited that I actually got to use some of these pictures I've been taking over the years living in New York. So for people, I chose Pass the Mic as my inspiration song because for me it's all about communication and collaboration. And communication and collaboration is what, at the core, I think makes our people successful. And people, of course, feed into the trifecta of any creative ops or agency, which is people, process, and technology. Look, people are our greatest asset in my view. And helping our teams grow and succeed is one of the greatest gifts that we have as leaders. So let's work to make their lives easier and better. Because when they're excited about the work and the workplace, everything flows. And everybody always wants to be in flow. It is the magical place. You get the most done, you're excited about the work, people are enthusiastic to come in every day. And that's what we want to create for our teams and for our clients. And you know what, this doesn't always have to be a major financial investment. You know, I'm going to talk about some quick changes for big wins in a bit, and many of them apply to your people. But some things you might consider are defining and aligning people's roles and responsibilities. One of the things I hear from a lot of my clients is, well, I do this, but Bob in Shanghai does that, and we do the same thing, but we have different titles. Or we work with different clients, or we work on a different technology, and we're making different money, which I know they shouldn't talk about, but they do. So try to figure out if you can align that. Also, work with HR to see if there are ideas about career pathing. Also, people can get very motivated when you help them grow and you share with them ideas about how they can do things differently and learn and continue their career path. Which, one of the things you could do is also a mentorship program. You can bring people from the outside in. In fact, Arc'teryx, which is a great outdoors brand outside of Vancouver, really, really progressive. I had the great opportunity to speak to their team earlier this year, and I was really inspired. I was inspired by the questions they were asking, the interest in their own growth and how other people's creative lives and careers have unfolded. And so I left inspired and hopefully left by inspiring other people. It was really a lot of fun. And also create opportunities for your team to continue to grow creatively. One of the things we did at The Gap, which I loved, is we left the photo studio open on the weekends so people could book time. So that could be someone from basically your post-production team who really wants to be an art director. This is an opportunity for them to try. Or an art director who wants to be a stylist, or a stylist who wants to be a photographer, or even people who just want the opportunity to come and explore different career paths. You can even have experts there on the weekends to help them out. In fact, one of my great success stories, sounds pompous, but as a mentor was the fact that the guy who used to run my sample closet at Gap in San Francisco spent a lot of time in the studio on the weekends because he really wanted to be a photographer. He put together a portfolio and was named the official photographer for the Pride Parade of San Francisco, and actually ended up being the official photographer for Mayor Gavin Newsom, who happens to now be the governor of the unique and lovely state of California. So people can grow when given the tools. And also encourage your staff to keep learning. I think events like this, I think classes at Coursera, Christina Huddart and I do work with Rutgers University, and there's a great digital asset management program there. We're actually in the process of creating a creative ops program. There's so many opportunities for people to continue their growth. Also, empower your teams to spend time to brainstorm on opportunities and improvement and innovation within your own agency, and have them bring ideas to the table, because the best ideas can come from anywhere. Be like the Beastie Boys and pass the mic. Encourage your staff to think about things and help you evolve, because they're the best ones to help us see what we can do to make things better. So support your people. They are your number one asset. So my top tips to pass the mic. Implement resource management if you don't have it already. Do we have the right resources to flex up to meet the needs of the business? If not, do we have an agency and contingent labor strategy in place? And if not, let's build one. Consolidate your resources. After COVID, I know a lot of us who have global companies have a team here, a team there, a team over there, and not everybody's working the same way or within the same tools. Let's increase that communication and collaboration by consolidating the way we work together. And culture. I know this is a huge topic and I can do an entire session on it, but I do recommend to take a step back and look at your culture. Is it a positive, inclusive, supportive environment? And if not, what changes can be made, both in the short term and the long term, to create a better workplace? All right, let's go into the second part of that trifecta process. How dapper are these guys? I mean, seriously, I could listen to Outkast all day long. So, as I said, a big part of agency ops for me is defining, implementing, testing, and evolving processes that help us create the right content at the right time. So for me, this is all about the way we move. So my inspiration for process was, of course, The Way We Move, or I Love the Way You Move, by Outkast. And I know not everybody here is focused on process and workflow, but it is a big part of what keeps the creative moving and helps us remove any roadblocks so we can focus our time on doing our best work. So I think this applies to everyone, whether your job is process or you're part of the process. And my number one tip for process, especially for in-house teams, is look at your intake. Start at the beginning. What does the creative briefing system look like? Because an unclear briefing system can result in all sorts of changes, rounds upon rounds of review and approve, people going around the process because they say they don't know what the process is. How many people have clients, or especially if you're an in-house team, have clients that go directly to an art director or a copywriter or a designer and say, can you just do this one thing for me? And then suddenly you don't have the information on what's actually happening within the agency. You don't know what your team's working on. Things are happening and being stored in different places. So if you go back to the beginning and really look at intake, this is going to improve so much. And don't get me wrong, it is valuable to do a full workflow and process analysis, either internally or by bringing in a partner or consultant to help, but it can be an undertaking. So when it comes to process, one of the things, the tips or the tools that I like to use is what I call current state, better state, future state. So we look at our current state. What is really happening? We look at the better state. What can we do short term to help make some improvements? And we look at our ideal state or our future state. What does it really look like, and what do we need to do to get us there? Are there things that we could be doing now, or are there bigger initiatives we need to go to leadership to help us with? All of this can be incredibly enlightening and give you some concrete steps to take in the short term while you're working towards the long-term initiatives. And I think it will help you love the way you move. So my top tips for process are: improve your intake. Look at your current state, better state, and future state, and develop a plan. And the 80-20 rule. This is 80% of the work coming into a creative team should be planned, and 20% should be left for those delightful last-minute projects that we all get that we don't necessarily want. And I know that sounds difficult, but let me tell you, it is so worth it when you get it done. Okay, now we're going to close out our trifecta with technology and get supersonic with my friends JJ Fad. If you have not heard this song, please listen to it. It's so catchy and awesome. My husband was playing it as I was leaving the hotel room this morning to get me motivated. Because we're JJ Fad and we're here to rock. Okay, beyond that. In this digital first world, technology is what I think takes us to the next level. It takes us supersonic. It's allowed us to work globally. It's allowed us to be more efficient and effective in how we share and store information. And all of this is amazing, and we're so grateful to have it. But are we really using our technology to our greatest advantage? I was speaking to the head of a technology company before I came here, and he said that 90% of the clients they meet with are still using email and spreadsheets to share information. Okay, what? Okay, that's a little mind-blowing, and it sounds totally insane, and whether or not it's 100% accurate is up for debate, but I do know that many clients that I meet with, whether they have creative technology in place or not, are still doing it old school. And in some cases, that's because, things don't talk to each other. The PIM doesn't talk to the CRM, doesn't talk to the DAM, that doesn't talk to the workflow tool. And so everybody's stuck working in their own silos. And they haven't thought about how they could work more effectively together utilizing technology. So when people go to buy something, whether you're, like for me at Michael Kors, my merchants were looking at a PIM tool, we were looking at a project management tool, the IT group and digital groups were looking at DAM, and none of us could agree on what we wanted. And so in this case, we didn't do anything. And in fact, 4 years later, I probably shouldn't share this, but Michael Kors still doesn't have a DAM. Don't tell anybody I said that. I love and adore that team, but they just can't get there. And it is one of the biggest hurdles we had, was deciding how we could move forward with technology as a group. So I highly recommend you find those partners, get together and figure out how you can utilize what already exists within the company, or what can you buy that can help you out. Because you know what? The status quo is not evolution. Change is evolution. Because one thing to remember is we need those technologies to support our people and our processes. And of course, I'm sure everybody here already knows this, but if I could give you one piece of advice about technology, it is identify your process before you buy any technology, because your people and your process should inform your tools, not the other way around. There was a great quote I heard at an event I was at a few years ago, which is, technology is only really good for business if the business is ready to use it. A little bit profound there. So my top tips to go supersonic with technology. People and process first, then technology. Do not buy technology to fix a process. And get off the spreadsheets and the emails. I know they're like a mini addiction. It's so easy. We've done it this way forever. But we need a central source of truth. And everyone needs to have the same access to the right information at the right time, and it needs to be updated. And a little longer of a process, but do a technology roadmap. Do a tech stack review. Determine, do your tools support your strategies and processes? If not, what do we need to do to add and replace or change what we have? And I think this is the perfect segue to MC Hammer. I could not resist Too Legit to Quit. If anybody remembers the actual hand symbols, I will love you. I think that's amazing. Okay, so we're going to get motivated and take on the big I can't see if anybody's actually doing Too Legit to Quit right now. Okay, we're going to take on big changes and inspiration from MC Hammer and get Too Legit to Quit. And to start, I'm going to go back a moment and just say that a few years ago, maybe 3,000, the Greek philosopher Heraclitus said that change is the only constant in life. And I think that's still pretty accurate. There might have been a philosopher who said something about taxes and death, but I think we'll leave that for another session. So along with technology, I think change has been the fastest growing factor in content creation. And we win when we embrace change. Learning how to adapt is key to our evolution and our success. It's not always easy, but we can make it happen, especially when we're too legit to quit. It's like winter. We know the change is coming. There's another reference. If anybody gets, come talk to me later. Be ready for change. Have a clear and communicated change management strategy up front, and follow that up with a solid and realistic implementation plan. You're probably going to get during my talk that there are two things I care about very much in the agency, and that's strategy and an implementation plan, because I think they go hand in hand. And you know what? Once you have that beautiful implementation plan, do not forget to communicate throughout your onboarding. And one of the things I'd like to tell you is to be resilient. Embrace the bumps in the road as part of the adventure. You know, there are a few basic strategies that can help us with change in any organization. As I said, communication. Make sure people know what's coming down the pipeline and have time to prepare and ask questions. Educate. Educate the agency, your partners, your clients. Put things in writing. Offer workshops. I am the queen of the if you feed them, they will come. If you have a pizza party in New York, people will show up. And then they learn. And it's always amazing to me. It isn't just the junior members of staff. I've got leadership showing up to get free pizza. I don't know what it is about free food, but people go nuts. And manage. Put somebody in charge of this, both of the implementation and the onboarding, and plan for this up front. Make it part of the implementation plan. If you don't budget for this, you will be shocked when you actually need someone full-time, whether it's a consultant or someone on your team, to be working on implementation and onboarding. And evangelize. Find those magical evangelists in every department who have adopted the tool or the process and want to share it with other people. And remember that leadership leads the way. If it comes from leadership, people are more likely to do it. Get your leadership team to talk about it at town halls, to send out an email talking to people about why they need to be, adopting the new methodology, the new tools, etc. Have them send out announcements. Give people someone to talk to, all of that. If it comes from leadership, people are going to read it. So MC Hammer's top tips, oh no, I mean mine, for change management and implementation. Develop a clear change management strategy and a realistic implementation plan. Put someone in charge and be resilient. Be too legit to quit, because again, change is hard, but it leads to better times. Okay, I had to get LL Cool J in here somewhere, and I was thinking, what does LL Cool J have to do with data and metrics? Hang on one second, I'm going to give it to you. So one of the biggest challenges I think we have as in-house leaders is proving ROI. And that helps us get headcount, it helps us get budgets for freelancers and external agencies if we need them, as well as funding for tools and our other major initiatives. Because at the end of the day, we want to show the value of evolving, improving, and innovating our agencies. And we want to show the value of expanding our services and capabilities and bringing more of the work in-house. I have one client that's a global management consultant, and one of the things that all the consultants were asking for was video. Do you do video? Do we have video? How is video? And I remember talking to the agency leader, and he said, we don't have video. And I said, well, let's take a step back. Could we have video? If we don't have the capability in-house, is there someone out-of-house that we could be utilizing? And Michael Kors, just to reference video, we did not have a video team in-house. And so what we did was we hired a freelance video producer who then had all those contacts already. We started with an external plan and we brought it in-house to the point that we started being the major video provider for the entire global organization. And that saved us money, and the creative was much more in brand and online, or excuse me, in line with what we were doing with the campaigns. So, knowing that we want to improve this, knowing that we want to add capabilities, I am here to tell you, Mama said knock you out with data and metrics. Okay, again, it might be a stretch, but I did get to put a picture of LL Cool J on there. And ladies love Cool James. In case you didn't know, that's what his name stands for. Data and metrics can help us tell our story in a way that leadership understands, because it gives us insights into our operational efficiencies, it helps track our projects towards our major initiatives, and most importantly, I think, it helps connect our initiatives to the overall goals of the companies, and that is something that is very important to the C-suite. So you probably heard my magic word in there again, strategy, and it all begins with strategy. As we set up a metric strategy, we need to identify what matters most to our organization, and that will guide what we need to measure. So what are we trying to achieve? What goals have we defined for the agency? Can we utilize data and metrics to help us tell the story? And if so, do we have access to that data, those data and metrics now? If not, what do we need to change to get there? So my top tips for data and metrics: strategy first, and then alignment on what we need to do. And one thing I want to share, the metrics guru, Nicole Brown, who's a friend of mine, she comes from Amazon. She recommends looking at effectiveness and efficiency, and I thought this was so good, I asked her if I could share this. A great place to start your data and metrics journey is, are we doing the right things, i.e., are we being effective, and are we doing things the right way? Are we being efficient? And then lastly, communication and implementation. What are we doing with our results, and how do we want to share them? Okay, and what everybody was waiting to talk about, I'm sure, the magic topic of the year, AI. So I chose Push It by Salt and Pepper as my inspiration for AI, not only because it is a really catchy song and kind of like AI, but this is the most pushed conversation of the year. It is the hot topic. In fact, I think there was talk about it yesterday, of course. Leadership's all over it. They want to know what we're doing with it. How are we implementing things? And I mean, I get it. It is a super exciting and innovative time. But you know what? We don't know what we don't know. The capabilities are changing every day, and many of the tools that we already use will probably have AI integrated into them soon if they don't already. But I think my message today to you is that AI needs to address real business needs before we implement anything. Do not implement any technology for saying, we did it, here it is, it's magical. If it isn't going to fix something or make people's lives easier, then it's a fun tool. So look, we need to ask again, what are our biggest challenges, what are we trying to solve, and what are the existing strategies, and how can AI support us within that? For some people, it's faster copy and faster time to market with our product photography. It might be reducing returns. It might be freeing the creative team's time up to do more exciting projects. Whatever that is, AI can potentially help us. So identify what needs to be done, then determine what AI can support us on and what we need the human touch for. We do not want to lose all that beautiful expertise that our people have. So utilize AI when it meets the business needs. It can help us develop our strategy and implementation plans if we understand what it can do to support us. But just like with any kind of process or technology changes, it is going to affect how you guys work. So understand that communication and collaboration will change, so we need to be more clear than ever on our scope of work and our standard operating procedures. And that will help us continue to move forward in the right way. So Salt and Pepper and my top tips for AI: be proactive, not reactive, strategy first. Document and communicate out process changes, and put those revised SOPs in place. Oh, I can see I'm running out of time. I got to talk fast. All right, and this is my favorite section, so let's see how I do. If you guys will give me a couple more minutes. Okay, small changes, big wins. We've been talking a lot about how to work it, so now we're going to put our big initiatives down, flip them and reverse them with Missy Elliott, because small changes can lead to big wins. And they actually work in support of our big initiatives. So I know I've talked about a lot today, but one of the things I always tell clients is don't feel like you have to do everything all at once. Make sure you look for the low-hanging fruit. What are the small changes that can give us the biggest results? So there's a few questions that I generally ask that can help us identify what we can work on. Does it make a visible difference? Will it easily show growth, or positive change for our teams and our clients? Do we have to ask for permission? Because if we don't, chances are it's going to happen a lot faster. If I have to get IT involved or go to a CapEx meeting, I might want to put that on the big initiative pile. Does it create momentum or enthusiasm? Is your team going to be excited that it's something that you took care of? Does it build trust with our clients and our partners? And does it buy us time for our bigger strategy? Because when we have momentum on these small changes and we're showing leadership that we're making changes that make it easier to work with our business partners and make our teams happier, this is going to give us a lot more weight with the leadership to show them that we can make these changes. So some of my biggest suggestions for the small changes: create templates for repeat work, which I know doesn't seem like a small change, but it's a great place to start. Automate something nasty that no one on your team wants to work on. Give compliments. I know it sounds a little cheesy, but it's free and it's easy and it goes a long way. Listen to your team. Farm out the garbage work. Get that heavy production work out of house or automate it and get the exciting creative projects in. End something or evolve something that doesn't work. Even if it's the way you've done it forever, it's a process, it's a meeting, it's a project. If it's not working, change it. And like I said earlier, look for something that leadership cares about, because it's going to give you more credit with them. So my top tips for small changes for big wins: evolve what matters most and make it meaningful for your team. Look at templating and automation and give compliments. This is part of that culture. Make sure your team feels appreciated and the work that you're going to do. All right. I swear I only have one more section. 2 more sections, maybe. Okay, so I'm going to give you my 3 top tips. I know I have talked about a lot, but like our friends at De La Soul say, 3 is the magic number. We've covered the 3 elements at the core of any agency: people, process, and technology. And I've given you my 3 top tips in each category. And I know this is a lot to digest. I've gone from one end of the agency to the other and back again. So obviously, please come to me if you want to talk about any of these in further depth. And I do have a story about each one of these. But again, I want to get you guys on to the rest of the day and hopefully the happy hour at the end. So please ask me anything, offline or after the event. But one thing I want to leave you with is that innovation is an ongoing process. Be patient, be resilient, and be courageous. There's another group of 3. And so with inspiration from De La Soul, here are my top 3 tips to leave you with today. Strategy first. Everything you do should be moving you towards your goals. Strategy first, then tactics. Small changes can lead to big wins. You don't have to do everything at once. Focus on what gets you the biggest bang for your buck while you're working towards your greatest goals. And if I could summarize in one concept what I think the core of evolution and innovation is for our agencies and our creative teams, for me it's review and improve. Never stop looking at your people, your processes, and your technology. Innovate what isn't working and optimize what is, because this will get you on the path and keep you on the path to producing the most meaningful results. And with that, thank you for letting me go a few minutes over. Thank you for your time and attention. There's my QR code. So Gary, thank you for setting that whole thing up for me. And if it doesn't work for you, drop me a line, but it's a good mix. I put in every song that I referenced today, plus about 30 others, and I tried to make it mostly family friendly. So I apologize for any swear words, but I think it's pretty good. Again, thank you so much. Have a great time today. Thank you so much to the Chili Publish team, and I look forward to talking to you all soon.